Welcome to Club and Country after the whistle, post-World Cup qualifying episode. Yes, guys, we still exist. The U.S. national team still exists, and we'll be here for all their games coming up in the future. I'm David Goss, and I am so lucky today to be joined by Mr. Stephen Keel. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, man.
It's Ariel Castillo, who will be looking at all your phone calls, texts, tweets, so keep sending them to us. And Kaylin Carr as well. Kaylin, you are in a very chipper mood today about this U.S. national team.
Hey, you know, someone's got to bring a little life to this group.
And that would be Kaylin, in and out. We're sitting here in ascending order of fashion. Kaylin's tied down to Stephen Keel, who's our very cool and relaxed social media host over here.
So, like, I'm the top of
yes,
the
you're the top of the rung.
I'm the top and filtering down through Kaylin.
That's absolutely true.
I thought you looked fantastic today, mate. Just saying.
Let us know what you guys think, both fashion but also soccer. Let us know what you think about the U.S. national team. What's the future? What are your questions? What did you think about this game? 401-206-0MLS is the phone number. Call. You can text as well. We've got some special callers coming in later on that we already know about. One calling from Tasmania, Australia. This is a big deal, guys. This is a really big deal. It's not, because it's actually Bobby Warshaw.
Yeah.
But he'll be on in just a little bit, and you can, of course, tweet at us and ask us all your questions. Guys, the last time we sat here and talked was probably the worst night in U.S. soccer history, at least the worst one over the last 40 years.
I don't. What night was that?
Yeah, right, blacked out.
I don't.
It was only a
Erase that
month
from the
ago,
memory.
by the way. It was only a month ago, which is insane. 1 month out. One, how do you feel about this program? But two, what was your experience watching this team out there on the field once again, watching that next step be taken?
No, I think it's one of those things that it's like the 7 stages of grieving, right? You go through. You have anger, there's depression, sadness, and I think over this month, I think we've all experienced those. We're mad at the U.S. soccer. We're mad at whomever it might be. But for me coming in this, I think I'm getting to like the kind of hopeful stage. You know, I'm ready to. What happened was awful. It was terrible. It was one of the, like you said, one of the worst nights in U.S. soccer. But I think coming in this game, I was just wanting to be hopeful about something.
And you came out feeling that way?
I did. I think overall, I think we'll break it down a little bit more with some of the individual performances. I think the result doesn't matter that it was a draw. I think it's more about the performances from the individuals. And like we'll talk about, there were some positives. Kaylin,
have you gone through your 7 stages yet? Did you come out? I mean, you're Captain Hopeful over there.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I was particularly hopeful in the context of looking forward towards the next World Cup. It's just too far away right now. But I think as far as beginning to put behind the performances we saw last, I more than anything just wanted to see the group come together, show some life, show some enthusiasm. That was the criticism of the last time the U.S. played. Didn't have that sense of urgency. These guys, obviously, a bit younger group, had a lot to play for. And I thought showed a good account of themselves. McKinney, of course, stood out, getting the nice finish there. But overall, the group had the right attitude. I think Dave Sarakin deserves some credit for getting this group. It's a tough spot to be in as a sort of interim manager in this position.
Ariel, everyone was yelling on Twitter, play your kids, play the young guys. Average age of 24. Weston McKennie, Tyler Adams, both teenagers, both making their debut. That's the first time in 30 years the U.S. has played 2 teenagers in their debut in the same game. Cameron Carter-Vicker came on as well. So you saw a lot of those young players, which to a lot of people means hope for the future.
Oh, sure. I mean, Weston McKennie, he's saved U.S. soccer. It's saved. We have nothing else to talk about. It's done. No, just kidding.
If only it were so simple.
I am just happy to be back among the U.S. MNT family. It felt like we were all scattered by a terrible tragedy, and now we're back together. So moving on from that whole triggering episode, I just think there's a sense now of, like you all have touched on, the stages of grief. Well, one of them finally is acceptance. So I think everyone has generally reached acceptance, and now we're looking towards the future. So Italy, Ireland, it'll come for you as well.
If only Weston McKennie could have done it for the U.S. just a month ago. Yeah. Let's look at the highlights. Weston McKennie making his debut. Tyler Adams as well. Danny Williams wearing the captain's armband for this one as he makes his return to not playing for the U.S. for over a year. And a good young core at the back. A good young core in midfield with Kellen Acosta getting the start. And as you said, Kaylin, Weston McKennie gets a goal on his debut.
Yeah, Sapong drifts out wide here. But here you think the moment's lost, but it shows good composure, unbalancing the defender. I thought Sapong did a great job early in this game, particularly getting a little bit wide and allowing some of these other guys to fill those spaces. And then McKennie shows some real composure here, being able to turn his defender the wrong way and then come back across the grain on the finish.
Goal here in the 22nd minute, Keelan. Kalen talked about that atmosphere, the environment being different for this team. They came out, they played really hard. They created a ton of chances early on. A mistake here from Ethan Horvath, but the U.S. was the better team in the first half. Much different than a Trinidad and Tobago game.
Absolutely. I think, we saw in the first, 2 to 3 minutes, we were pressuring, we were stepping, Kellen Acosta was stepping up the lines, Weston McKennie was stepping up the lines, looking to pressure them and not allowing them to play out of the back. So I think you could see it just from even the opening minutes, how much that energy and the guys were up for the night.
You talk about this team, Dave Sarakin as the interim manager. He got this team going. He played a lot of these young kids. They looked fairly comfortable. McKinney almost gets another one. John Brooks had a goal that was called off because of a foul on Matt Miazga. But this seemed like a cohesive unit for a lot of guys that had never played together before.
Yeah, I played for Dave, actually. He drafted me out of college to play for the Chicago Fire at the time. So I know how he is, especially with young players. He's a guy that everybody loves, in the locker room. He's been a long-time coach under Bruce for so long, but people speak really highly of him, especially as he's able to build a rapport with the young players. I know, having been one under him, he would have told these guys going out there to, hey, play your game. You're here for a reason. Go out and express yourself. And you saw that for the most part. Tyler Adams, McKinney, a lot of these guys played loose, even in positions that they may not be accustomed to. Getting their first cap, that's going to bring some nerves along. But they played free for the most part, so I think that was a good sign for those young guys.
401-206-0MLS is the number for you to call in. We've got our most esteemed caller on the line right now from Tasmania, Australia, Mr. Bobby Warshaw. Bobby, are you safe?
I am, dude. The Wallabies have stayed away from me. And that's the nicest intro you've ever given me, man. Thanks so much.
If you go around the world, then I miss you more and I like you more, Keel. If you move around the world, then I'll be really nice to you as well. Yeah. Bobby, you took the time to watch this game. We appreciate that. We know you're crazy, and we love that about you as well. What was your thoughts? What was your takeaways? Where do you sit right now?
My big thoughts and takeaways are that and this is probably the wrong reason for me to call in, but that I have none. That I watched this game, and I totally believe that there's a reason for me to watch this game, and I have absolutely no idea what it was, or no idea what that reason is. That I have no idea how to figure out what matters, what is important, whether it's, for example, is it good when a young player plays well, or would I rather him play badly and take some lumps and learn? So I watched it, but I have no idea why or what I learned from it.
Bobby, do you feel hopeful about the U.S. program right now?
Man, if that's not the most big, loaded question I've ever heard in my life. I don't know. I try not. I mean, to be fair, I get paid in this to not be hopeful or not hopeful, right? I try and take it logically. What the hell am I saying? Yeah, I'm hopeful because that's who I naturally am, and I can't imagine going through life not being hopeful about U.S. soccer. So, yes, I am. I do think that we're going to continue to get better, but please, for the life of me, guys, do not ask me.
Well, I don't know what not to ask him.
So you can ask him.
I can ask you anything I want. Bobby, I think what you were about to say is Weston McKennie the savior of U.S. soccer? Are we going to play in a NIT tournament, win it, and it will actually be better than the World Cup? That's what you wanted me to ask you. I think Bobby got eaten by a kangaroo at the end of that.
I want to pick up on something he said where he said he doesn't know what he's watching for. Is it better for them to play well, or is it better for them to take lumps and learn from it? And I think that's part of a lot of the conversation we're seeing is we don't know who the next number one goalkeeper is. So, Ethan Horvath had that howler at the beginning, right? But part of his sort of journey through this will be how he bounces back from it. So I don't think it's the biggest disaster that happened to him. I think it could be a great learning moment.
Yeah, well, they're going to get both, no matter what. Right. I mean, Horvath is obviously taking a lump in this one, but he also learns from that, hopefully, how to rebound, had a little more solid performance to finish the half.
Let's talk about Weston McKennie, though. And obviously, it wasn't a perfect game. But you score as a teenager on your debut. You started and played 90 minutes for Schalke last week in a Bundesliga win. You were the big piece that everyone wanted to see. And he comes out and plays well. And that's where everyone's going to come out of this game and have so much hope, is in his performance. What do you see from what he can do at this level and what you see from him personality-wise to take on this pressure at such a young age?
Well, he normally plays a little bit more withdrawn role in the center of midfield. Here you see his attacking skills. I don't know if a lot of people had seen that out of his game. Showed a little bit of his aerial ability later in the match. banging one off the crossbar, and overall just didn't look out of place. You have to remember now, this isn't all of Portugal's stars that are heading to the World Cup, but these are players that play for big clubs in Spain. He, of course, plays for a big club in Germany, so the moment didn't overawe him at all. I think there was a lot to look forward to with him.
You look at this tweet from Paul Carr, of course, a must-follow, 7th youngest U.S. M&T scorer in the modern era. You look at those names, 50% of them U.S. stars, the other 50% or a few of them not really difference makers. So a lot to take from that. And right now we're going to go to our expert, our armchair analyst, Mr. Matt Doyle, because we are just trekking the globe on this show. Doyle, how's it going?
Yeah, well, I'm a little disappointed I didn't get as fulsome an introduction as Bobby Warshaw did, but I guess I'll have to take the scraps.
Doyle, what type of nature are you trekking here to call us in? You're sitting on your couch, or excuse me, in your armchair. You don't get the same type of...
never forget the branding, my friend. I am indeed sitting in the armchair.
So, Doyle, we've talked about our thoughts coming out of this one, hope, our opinions of what you're looking for. What did you see in these 90 minutes?
I saw a continuation of what we've seen out of the last two U20 groups. And you know, to pick up on the theme of hope, I was already hopeful about the coming cycles because if you look across global soccer, what really translates up is what happens at the U20 level. And for the first time in program history, in 2015 and 2017, we made back-to-back quarterfinals. And I think we're the only team in the world that actually made back-to-back quarterfinals. So I figured that we would improve upon what we've had for really the last 6 years. But they didn't do anything to dissuade me. You know, Matt Miazga was a man at the back, and Weston McKennie he's a special talent, and he played like it. Kellen Acosta played well for the first time since before the Gold Cup. Lyndon Gooch had a moment or two, I thought, and Tyler Adams is a stud. So I think everybody from those groups, except for Ethan Horvath, met or exceeded expectations. And if you want to flip the page to a new cycle, it's a good way to start it up.
When you look at this team, you look at these players, the young guys, should they have been in Trinidad and Tobago? Would they have made a difference? Bruce Arena touched on it a little bit after the game, spoke about John Brooks specifically. But is this something where you're looking back, or it's all just looking forward?
I don't think there's any doubt that Bruce got the lineup and formation and tactics wrong against Trinidad and Tobago. But honest to God, there should be about 30 different lineups you can trot out against that TNT team and get a win. You know, forget about just getting a result. Like, to get a win. That was a bad team, and no U.S. lineup should ever have lost to them. What happened on that day was, I think, less about personnel and more about tactical adjustments. We conceded central midfield. We really only played with one central midfielder in that day. It was Michael Bradley going 1v4. Today, we played a 4-1-4-1. So we had 3, sometimes 4 central midfielders because Tyler Adams would pinch in, and that stopped Portugal from getting purchase and being able to play through the lines and build easy through the midfield. We were just a more difficult team to play against today. Would some of those guys have helped? For sure. John Brooks would for sure have helped, but that's not an excuse. What the number one thing that caused us to flame out against Trinidad and Tobago was Bruce Arena getting the lineup and formation and tactics wrong. It's almost not worth looking any deeper than that.
Doyle, let's look, though, now forward, because you're pulling me back into that dark space.
Right? I feel like
I'm lurching back. Talk to me about 2018, because this is the last game of 2017, one of the worst years in U.S. soccer history. We have a January camp coming up. A coaching decision is going to have to be made. Where is this team right now? This is your depth chart up on the screen. Where does this team stand? What do the next 12 months look like?
12 months are identifying the guys that can help us for the 2019 Gold Cup. I want to win that again. And I think everybody involved in U.S. soccer should want to win that again, because that spins us forward to the 2021 Confederations Cup, and that's still a worthwhile goal. And don't forget, World Cup qualifying starts 2 years from now. So we have the next 12 months to identify that core, and hopefully that means getting John Brooks and Matt Miazga a million reps together. Hopefully that means, Weston McKennie steps into the starting lineup. We figure out how to integrate him and Pulisic and maybe Tyler Adams as well. We'll see what it takes beyond that. But, maybe it means we get to play the World Cup NIT as well next summer. If that's the case, it'll definitely change the way I think about 2018 and roster building.
Well, Matt Doyle there with his player pool, and of course you can hear him on Extra Time Radio. Read him on MLSsoccer.com. Doyle, we've already seen the pictures of your cats up here, so you can go join them again. And I know it's been very brave of you to deal with human beings for this short time, and we appreciate that.
Talk to anyone again for the rest of the week. So later, guys.
Mr. Matt Doyle, a little bit of hope, a lot of despair at times as well. You saw that player pool from him. It's a lot of unknown names. It's a lot of guys that don't have first-team experience, really. Maybe could, maybe wouldn't. When you think of 2018, January camp, it's going to be unique. We've not had something like this before. A coaching hire, the friendlies that they have to organize. What do you want to see from U.S. Soccer?
I think it's similar to what we saw in this game, is bringing in players that are unknown. I think Doyle's list is a good one. And like you said, there's a lot of people we don't know a lot about. So I think the January camp and those friendlies that accompany that is a good time to see what these players can do and see what they can play how they do at the international level.
And for you guys, what do you see in terms of how this coaching change has to happen? Because Dave Sarakin is an interim, and he's good with young players, and that's going to be perfect. But how does this go forward?
I don't think you'll see a decision made anytime soon as far as the next national team coach. I think you want to obviously vet the process out, maybe even as long as the World Cup. Wait until after the World Cup, see who becomes available. By that point, hopefully, some of the structural issues, the larger issues as far as how U.S. soccer is going to be orchestrated and
a presidential election, U.S. soccer presidential
will happen. So I think you'll wait and see who those candidates are available then, and then be able to take a step forward as far as the next direction.
Well, I have a couple of texts, so let me throw these questions to you from the group because they're very apropos right now. Okay, so first is about a three-man backline. Tyler from Tulsa asks, is the best formation a three-man backline with these three young center backs? And is Adams a better right wing back than Yedlin? And then pivoting from that, Anthony from Tampa also wants to hear about Tyler Adams. He says, is Tyler Adams a center mid, a right wing back, or the greatest player since Christian Pulisic? So we're already on the next phase of this hype train. But anyway, so questions there for you all.
Tyler Adams, only 18 years old, started in MLS. Jesse Marsch called him a leader. I mean, is this one of the guys who's a must-see, permanent on your sheet for the next few months for the U.S. national team?
And where do you see him fitting in?
Absolutely. I think if you watch him, even with how he plays with the Red Bulls, is defensively 1v1, he is fantastic. And then we saw it tonight, the tricky, fast, pacey wingers. Tyler Adams was step with them, getting blocking crosses. So is he that right wing back? Is he better than Yedlin? I think, I don't want to say we're a prisoner of the moment. He had a great game.
Yedlin has 49 caps.
Yedlin has 49.
Has one.
Exactly.
So let's decide today.
Yeah, so I think we want to hold off on that. But, can he play in front of him like that, in front of Yedlin like that? Absolutely. So he's so versatile. You hear Jesse Marsch go on and on just about how athletic he is, what a player he is. And so I think, where he can play anywhere.
Well, tonight they played together.
Exactly.
I thought they had a good relationship going. And the thing about Tyler's game, which makes me feel like the inside may be more where he's going to be suited long term, is he feels comfortable tucking in. There were a couple times he was able to tuck into the inside of the midfield on the dribble. He found a nice left-footed ball through to Yedlin overlapping. He's got more to his game than I think people realize. The other thing about him, I think he's going to get more, I think he's going to grow. I don't think we've seen the best out of him physically, which is also a big strength of his already. In MLS, he's already an impossible matchup for teams. And you look at him, he's got a baby face. I think he's going to get in the weight room, he's going to get stronger, and potentially even be a better athlete as time goes on. So.
But he definitely is a player that likes to get on the ball, feels comfortable around people, almost scored a goal here on his debut to match Weston McKennie. But Tyler Adams, a player that has a lot of people excited.
And I think one of the key things with those two players in particular is confidence, right? Coming into this match, the two most talked about names, Weston McKennie and Tyler Adams. So they knew, and they're young guys. They read the press. They know all the hype is about them. And so they came in, and the moment wasn't too big for them. They delivered that. And so I think, having played with Weston a little bit at FC Dallas, my time there, or when he trained with us, he's not short on confidence, and that's what you want with these young
Where
guys.
do you think he developed the confidence to play against what some people will call a butcher like Pepe? Like, do you have any examples of Weston McKennie being violently hit by a veteran player but still persevering?
I didn't hurt him. There may have been a time when the first team with FC Dallas was scrimmaging the academy kids. Weston may have scored a goal, might have said something I didn't appreciate. I told him I didn't like that. Tackled him. He said something more, so I may have clotheslined him. But
how old was he?
Listen, age is just a number, team.
16,
so,
17.
Right? What's wrong with like a 30-year-old, guy closing? But listen, to be honest, what I did admire about it is I took him to the side after and I said, listen, you're too good to be having that cocky kind of attitude. He listened the entire time. He didn't pipe back at all. We shook hands. We're friends now and everything. But every time he took it, he took it in stride. He never once popped off or said anything. He just got kicked really hard by me and got up and kept going. So I like that.
Weston McKennie, one of 2 FC Dallas Academy players on this team, along with Kellen Acosta. 401-206-0MLS. That's our Hot Take Hotline. It's there for you. Please let us know. What do you think? What do you want to know? Let's go to a call right now. Well, that was eloquently put from Elise. Sorry, I was waiting for just a little bit more there.
It was a little bit more of that backward look.
Fans are still upset.
Yeah.
There's no surprise there. Nothing's been fixed. Nothing's changed. This was kind of an awkward time where you have a month, you have to play a game, but then you move on, and you have a few months now to really start to break things down. One of the things that Matt Doyle brought up being a little annoyed or upset about is Ethan Horvath. Made the mistake in this game. He was one of 3 young goalkeepers. Where do you guys see that position, which for the first time in about 30 years has a question mark for the U.S. national team? Who do you see stepping up as the next U.S. goalkeeper?
Well, I do have a hot take about him.
Uh-oh.
Well, from the text line. And that's Taylor from Ithaca, who says that Horvath is just not mentally tough enough for international soccer. I don't know I don't know that I agree with that. I mean, we've seen him out a few times. He had one bad match, and we don't know, again, who that next goalkeeper in line is. So I don't think we should write him off.
Right here, though, after this play, that body language.
Yeah, you could tell it upset him. He didn't,
Do you have any young goalkeepers, Zach Steffen, Cody Cropper, Bill Hamid, that you think?
Yeah, I think that, he came in the second half, and, I think they spoke about in the broadcast with Stu and John Strong that wasn't a reaction to Ethan's performance. It was planned that Bill Hamid would come in. So, I think he, depending how he transitions over to Europe and everything, I think he's right in line. I think you also look at, like you said, Zach Steffen is having a fantastic postseason with the Columbus Crew. And, I know Jesse Gonzalez. I think some people might have kind of knocked him a little bit with the form that FC Dallas finished in. But having played with him, the athleticism, his length, the balls he can get to is unmatched. So I think, like you said, there's a big pool and a lot of unknowns, which I hope that over the next couple months, January camp, we start to see these guys. And like you said, we got to get these guys in situations where they can either shine or we'll see what they're really about. The
thing I will say about Zach Steffen, I know in some ways I think we're a little bit a prisoner of the moment because he's had this incredible run with Columbus Crew SC in the playoffs. But how many performances have you seen from Bill Hamid of that caliber?
Right.
Now, DC hasn't been consistently in the playoffs as much, but he's been doing that for a long time.
For like 5 years.
Which is why it was surprising to see Stuart Holden in the broadcast say that this was only his 4th cap with the men's national team. Now is his chance. He's looking to go abroad, signed abroad, so he will. That's the next step of his development, and then the next step beyond that is with the men's national team. I think he's the standout name to me when you look forward for this next cycle of someone else to really grab a hold of this job.
So for the young guys that came out of this game, on one end, Ethan Horvath with the mistake, on the other end, Weston McKennie, what's Dave Sarakin's comments to them in the locker room right now? What's U.S. Soccer hoping that they're going to take with them back to their club teams?
Well, hopefully the conversations don't just happen in the locker room after the game. I think this a big part of this next step in this long process is to build relationships and have communication with these guys. I know part of the national team is always to go travel, watch them play, watch them train, especially with young guys. You got to kind of keep them under the eyes of the national team as well. But a good start, congratulations. I think this is a positive for them. You get your first ball signed by the national team, maybe get his jersey signed by the rest of the group, or go around, and this will be a moment he'll be able to treasure forever.
Yeah, I think
sounds like sleepaway camp. Sounds like fun.
I think it's positive. It's a good performance. The energy was there, which I think a lot of people want to see coming off the performance in Trinidad. But again, I think it's also with the message like this is just one game. Guys, we have literally almost 5 years till the next World Cup, 2 years until the next competitive U.S. soccer game. So I think it's about taking the positives and continuing to take that forward into the months ahead, into the friendlies ahead.
Well, I want to take it to a text. We talked a little bit about Tyler Adams, another sort of member of the Red Bulls family, extended family, of course, Matt Miazga. I want to know what your take is on him. Taylor from Ithaca, again, says Miazga should be on every roster for the next 10 years starting over Cameron, which is a hot take. I have to say it was a little bit frustrating to hear Bruce Arena before the match say that Matt Miazga would have been a World Cup starter, so why wasn't he around when we needed him? I thought he put in pretty good service again, and I think he should have been part of the qualification cycle.
And he also said John Brooks was a guy that he wished he had seen, and that's another guy who started in this game, was obviously hurt.
Was an option,
yeah,
so
right.
that was very disheartening to hear.
Right, he was hurt in that one, and then Miazga's not getting looks. Let's not go back into that hole again. Sorry.
Well, okay, fine. So is there a case, Taylor from Ithaca, for Matt Miazga to start over Jeff Cameron?
I think, again, we're always looking to the future, but I feel like to say he should start over Jeff Cameron right now, it's a disservice to Jeff Cameron as a player and what he's done for this program.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but that's the past.
That is the past.
Jeff Cameron's 32 years old? This is your friend, so I just want to make sure I had that right.
But let me ask you one question. You have a one-off playoff game. Who are you starting? Are you starting Jeff Cameron, or are you going to start
But it
Matt
doesn't
Miazga?
matter. I don't have a game that counts for 3 years.
But here's my... That's what...
for last
No, but the question is that he should be starting over Jeff Cameron from now moving forward. So I'm saying if you have a game right now,
how will Cameron Weeby factor into
Andrew Weeby normally would be sitting here, but right now he's on daddy duty.
Obviously winning it.
Cameron Russell Weeby, born on Saturday, November 11th, 5 pounds 3 ounces. Yay. By the way, this is how Andrew Weeby's interactions work now. You're talking about soccer, and then he just throws a baby thing at you out of nowhere. But
to answer my question,
if I have a playoff game this year,
you have a one-off.
It's easy. If you have a guy starting week in, week out in the Premier League, he starts for the men's national team.
Thank you.
That's the end of the discussion.
Thank you.
But when you look forward towards the next World Cup, does Matt Miazga have a better chance than Jeff Cameron at this point? You probably have to say yes. Now, if Jeff can extend his career, who knows? I think he'll be a big part of this qualification process.
So that's the question. The question is not 2022. It's 2019.
Right.
Mm-hmm. A guy who's 34, who's better at that age than Matt Miazga is at 22, should he still be called in? Well, how do you handle these guys?
We definitely missed Jeff Cameron's presence in these last qualification games, and I think that's...
And the idea to just throw out the baby with the bathwater makes no sense. Who did you see as potentially going to be the captain of this game today? Alejandro Bedoya, right? Was he a part of the last qualifying cycle? Sure. Is he going to be in the next World Cup? A lot of people would probably bet against him. But he still serves a purpose in this next cycle of qualification. And to me, to throw out everybody, to ban people, or to guarantee spots for the next 10 years is just a reaction that you understand from fans because they're upset, rightfully so. But there's a part of the process with the national team as guys phasing out, Carlos Bocanegra, other guys have done it in the past, is to help along the guys behind. And a guy like Christian Pulisic has gone out and said Alejandro Bedoya, Jeff Cameron, those are the two names he mentions as guys that have been able to really help him in his development and getting settled with the national team. So there's a lot of different roles you can play on a team.
Exactly. And to go back to your point about tossing these guys, I know we said with Josie and Michael Bradley and stuff, are they, in the next World Cup? That still remains to be seen. But I know for one thing is we're going to need those guys to qualify. Qualifying starts years in advance. And 100%, we're going to need these players. We're going to need Jeff Cameron. We're going to need Michael Bradley, these kind of old guard guys, to still be part of this program. So to say that they should just be pushed aside, let Matt Miazga, no knock on Matt Miazga. I truly believe he has such a bright future. I believe that in time in the future, he will be our number one center back. I truly believe that. But now he's still developing, and you still have a quality player in Jeff Cameron. I think it's silly to say that, see you later, Jeff.
So the next 12 months, the U.S. already has a January camp coming up. Bosnia and Herzegovina, it looks like it's going to be at least one friendly in that. Then you look at the U.S. and you think, World Cup teams are going to want to play the U.S. We're one of the better teams that didn't qualify. So they're going to have a chance to play in some really big games. There's rumors out there of this NIT tournament, and you look at ESPN FC's tweet right there, possibly hosting a pre-World Cup matches with other big teams that didn't qualify, Italy, the Netherlands, Ghana, Chile. You talk about the Republic of Ireland and other teams around the world. Would a guy like Jeff Cameron and Michael Bradley be in those rosters for you? Because you talk about testing out new guys. Or is it then when the games start to matter, you bring them back in?
Well, we're getting a lot of texts about our friend Michael Bradley specifically. So a couple, Simon from New York asks, can this team phase Michael Bradley out completely? We've already touched on that a little bit. But you were talking about Alejandro Bedoya. We thought he would wear the captain's armband. He didn't. It was Danny Williams. So can Danny Williams be the player to replace Bradley? And what does Williams wearing the armband tonight signify in the bigger picture?
Well, to answer the first question, I'll answer the first question. Should we phase Michael Bradley out? And I think that's an easy no. Absolutely not. I mean, I know he is polarizing to some people, and they love and hate him, but what he does for our team, he is unmatched by other players, at least now. And maybe this is a time when someone like a Weston McKennie, someone like a Kellen Acosta can push him out, can say, you know what, this is my spot, but no one stepped up like that. And until someone does, for me, that position belongs to Michael.
The thing that kills me, too, is that everyone forgot the night that he had at the Azteca. Everyone loved him that night.
Right.
And then, you know, it was a great all hail Bradley. And then when he was given too much to do.
Yeah, to Doyle's point.
Right.
He played in a five-man midfield in that game. And then when he was alone against Trinidad and Tobago,
right,
he got overran, and now everyone boos him.
Yeah, totally.
As far as the larger leadership questions, though, I think those questions aren't to be answered right away. That's something that's going to take some time as well. I know I keep saying things are going to take some time, but
this is,
we want to know now.
We've got 5 minutes left.
But there's time for someone to emerge as a leader. Danny Williams was probably just the most experienced player on the field today. I don't think it was probably much more complicated than that. You know, a guy with some personality in the middle of the park. But I think over time you're going to have to wait and see who's going to come up and grab those reins.
So that time, though, one question, is if you don't have a coach, what's happening over the next 9 months, right? Let's say you wait till the next World Cup to hire your next coach. Who's thinking about Michael Bradley and his role? Who's trying to figure out who the next captain is? Who's trying to figure out when we're phasing guys in and out? If it's just an interim, can that work?
Well, I think that's part of the problem, is the structural pieces aren't at place yet with the federation. So once you get the president and then you start to figure out the technical staff, it sounds like, you know, what I would suggest or what I would support more rightly is a group of people, and Landon Donovan would probably be the first name on that list, and then whoever else would come around him. But that's the first foundational part as far as having these tougher conversations about who should be in the team, who should be phased out, and how best to develop it.
When you look at January camp, that's the next thing coming up. It's been treated in different ways in past years. In the beginning, it was called Camp Cupcake, and it was a lot of guys who maybe wouldn't get a chance that were brought in. Then, as more MLS players were U.S. national team mainstays, it's become more of a serious camp. How would you handle this next January camp?
You know, I think we would, like we did this game, we'd bring in guys who maybe we don't know a lot about, who they have the potential. We've seen glimpses of, you know, possibilities, and then bring them in and see what they're all about.
I mean, I think this is the time to get weird, to get experimental even.
Absolutely.
You know, the Players Tribune piece by Christian Pulisic, this is a time to look at the absolute youngest guys. I mean, we have nothing to lose. We have nothing really competitive until 2019, so why not?
There's no pressure, right? Essentially, the pressure for, you know, we can dwell on the negativity of not making the World Cup, and I'm not going to sit here and say that's a good thing at all because it's absolutely horrible. Or we can take that and say, okay, that happened, that we can't change this. Let's make the best of the situation. So like you said, let's bring in some really young guys and see if they're up for it. Let's see, you know, who we can bring in, who's up for it, who's not, and see where it falls.
And I think about kids like Josh Sargent, even that we barely see at the club level, like, now is the time. So.
Yeah. Josh Sargent at 17 gets to play for the U.S. national team.
Well, I also don't think it's, I don't know, I'm still a little bit protective of the national team in the sense. I never played for the men's
You
national
don't want
team.
guys who don't deserve it to get chances.
Tyler
but how do you
Adams deserves to be called up to the men's national
But maybe
team.
that's part of the problem is like I understand. I know what you're saying, that it's like a wholly, you have to really earn it. And there for a while, it almost seemed like, we were giving caps away for free and stuff. And I understand what you don't want that to turn into, but at the same time, what if we're missing something? Like that's what what we've been doing hasn't worked. So maybe it's time to experiment and change with it. And I agree, like you don't want to just be giving it away to whomever, but at the same time, what if by not giving it away, you miss out on that one player?
Yeah, what if you would have brought in a McKinney a year ago, and
Absolutely.
could he have maybe scored a goal late in one of these games to be able to come on and make a difference?
Now, on the flip side, we brought Julian Green in, and he scored a goal and was never able to make a difference. It's really hard to tell with guys at this age. One last question for you, because you know a lot of these guys, and you talked about Jeff Cameron's role, Alejandro Bedoya. Bedoya was brought to this camp to be a guiding force as a veteran. Who do you see in this U.S. pool? Who are one or two guys that you think of that will play that role well?
To be honest, the first two names that I think of are Michael Bradley and Josie Altidore.
Yeah,
I think there's a power in the loss that they have suffered, and it has fallen on their shoulders harder than anybody's. So when I look forward, I think they have a unique role to play building forward. I think on the field as far as their talent, but also in a bigger capacity to be able to impart amongst the rest that sense of loss and pain and suffering that they've endured, and then also to help kind of groom this next generation going forward.
Do you guys think the same names?
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm a Josie fan. I'm not shy about saying that. And he's a lot younger than we think about,
Right.
just because he's been playing pro for so long. And he has maybe the possibility of another World Cup in him. So that would be my top pick for sure.
Well, you guys, it's been fun. It's been an up and down year if you're a U.S. national team fan. And this show means technically it's over. We'll be back in 2018. The U.S. national team will be back in 2018 to all of you. Matt Doyle and hopefully Bobby Warshaw returns as well. We appreciate you all for watching. Thanks so much. And, of course, have a good day.